I never thought I'd sit down one day and start telling strangers about the mess that once was my life. But sometimes, when the weight inside is too heavy, you either let it out or you suffocate. My name isn't important. What matters is the story, and the way betrayal can creep in so quietly, so cruelly, that you don't even notice until the knife is already buried deep in your back. When I look back now, it feels almost absurd, like some second-rate drama I could have watched on TV. Only difference is the pain was real, too real, and the stupidity, mine, because love makes you blind, deaf, and sometimes even dumb enough to ignore the obvious. I was in my early 30s when I met her. Let's call her Oksana. She was nothing like the women I'd known before, fiery, unpredictable, with this sharp tongue that could slice anyone to ribbons, and eyes that made you feel like you were the only man in the room. I fell fast, and I fell hard. Our relationship didn't start smooth. Honestly, it was a roller coaster from day one. Fights that burned like gasoline, reconciliations that felt like the sweetest drug. I thought that's what passion was supposed to look like. My friends warned me, said I was playing with fire. I laughed them off. What did they know about love? For the first few months, life was a blur of late-night talks, spontaneous trips, and a kind of intimacy that leaves you drunk on dopamine. She had this way of making me feel alive like nothing else mattered. But at the same time, there were cracks. Small things I chose to ignore. The late replies, the excuses, the sudden mood swings. I told myself it was normal. Everyone has their flaws, right? The first real warning came one night when I was scrolling through her phone. Not because I didn't trust her, or at least that's what I told myself, but because something inside me just itched. I found a message. Nothing explicit, nothing you could hold up as hard evidence. Just a "can't wait to see you" from a number I didn't recognize. When I confronted her, she exploded. How dare I invade her privacy? How could I be so insecure, so paranoid? The argument lasted hours, with her crying, screaming, then suddenly softening, kissing me like I was the only one she wanted. By the end of it, I was the one apologizing. I actually apologized. That was the pattern. Every time I got close to the truth, she turned it around. Somehow, I was always the bad guy, the jealous boyfriend, the overthinker, and I believed her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. Months passed. We moved in together. My place became our place, though sometimes it felt more like hers than mine. She decorated, rearranged, brought her energy into every corner. At first it was exciting, like building a life together. But slowly I started noticing she'd disappear for hours without explanation. A quick coffee with a friend turned into a half-day gone. A late shift at work ended with her coming home at 2 a.m. with the smell of someone else's cologne clinging to her jacket. I told myself I was imagining things. I had to be. Because admitting the truth would mean everything I invested, my time, my trust, my heart, was being wasted. And I wasn't ready for that. But you can only lie to yourself for so long. One night I came home earlier than usual. She didn't expect me. The lights were dim, soft music playing, and her laughter drifted from the living room. Not just hers. A man's voice, too. I froze in the hallway, every nerve in my body screaming at me to walk in, to see, to confront. But I couldn't move. I just stood there listening while the pieces of my world started to shatter. That night changed everything. The days after that discovery blurred together, but not because I wanted to forget. No, because my mind simply refused to accept it. Betrayal is funny that way. You don't absorb it in one clean blow. It seeps in, drip by drip, until it poisons everything you thought you knew. I remember sitting at my kitchen table with her phone in my hand, staring at that single thread of messages. It felt like holding a bomb, one that had already gone off but was still humming with aftershocks. The words glared back at me, sickly sweet, inside jokes, plans, even promises. Promises she used to make to me. I didn't confront her right away. That might surprise some people, but I couldn't. Part of me needed to believe there was some logical explanation. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe I was misreading the context. Maybe I was desperate. The night she came home, I watched her move through the apartment like nothing had changed. She kissed my cheek, asked how my day was, and laughed at some stupid story about my boss. I looked at her, really looked, and realized how well she wore the mask. It wasn't just that she could lie, it was that she could make me feel crazy for even suspecting her. That kind of talent only comes from practice. I asked her casually who Mark was. Her pause was slight, but I caught it. A tiny stutter in her movement, like her brain had to reroute before the lie came out. "Just a guy from work," she said, smiling too quickly. "He helps with the new project." I wanted to scream at her right then. I wanted to slam my fist on the table and throw her phone in her face. But I didn't. Instead, I nodded, pretending to accept it. My silence must have comforted her because she relaxed, leaned on me, and started talking about dinner. The whole time, my blood was boiling. That night, I barely slept. My mind replayed every moment of our relationship, every red flag I ignored, every excuse I made for her late nights, the unexplained texts, the guarded smile when she thought no one was watching. I thought back to the first time I caught her in a half-truth, something small about running into an old friend. I'd brushed it off, telling myself trust meant not interrogating. But now I wondered how many lies I had swallowed over the years. How many times she had smirked to herself after walking away from me, satisfied that I was still in the dark. By the end of that sleepless night, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. If she was hiding something, I needed to see how deep the rabbit hole went, so I watched. I listened. I became a shadow in my own home, observing every twitch, every glance at her phone, every excuse to step outside. And then, 2 weeks later, the truth hit me harder than any confession ever could. I followed her. She thought she was clever, making up a dinner with coworkers, dressing down like she wasn't planning anything special. But I knew her tells. I saw the extra time she spent in front of the mirror, the way she double-checked her hair, the nervous little smile she gave herself before leaving. I stayed a few cars behind, careful not to draw attention. My heart pounded like I was the one committing the crime. And then she pulled into a small restaurant on the other side of town, the kind of place we'd never go together because she always said it was too far. She parked, got out, and there he was. Mark. He wasn't some faceless name on a screen anymore. He was flesh and blood, standing under the glow of the street lamp, grinning like he'd already won. When she walked up to him, he wrapped his arms around her like she belonged to him, and she melted into it. That image burned into me, deeper than any scar could. I didn't storm over. I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. I wanted her to see me, to know I knew, but at the same time I wanted to disappear. Because in that moment I wasn't the man she loved. I was just the fool who finally opened his eyes. Driving home, I realized something even worse than the betrayal itself. She hadn't slipped up. She hadn't made a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a double life, carefully constructed, maintained with precision. And I was the placeholder, the man she came home to when she needed stability, comfort, or just a cover story. When she walked in later that night, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers, she kissed me again. And for the first time, I didn't kiss back. There's a moment in a man's life when silence becomes heavier than words, when the weight of what's unsaid crushes harder than any argument. That was where I found myself the days after the phone call with Claire. I didn't tell Sarah what I knew, not right away. At first, I just observed. I wanted to see if she would confess, if some shred of guilt would surface and she'd come clean. But all I saw was the same routine she'd perfected. The careful smiles, the affectionate touches, the way she still leaned against me in the evenings as if nothing in the world had changed. It was maddening. Every laugh she gave me felt hollow, every kiss on my cheek burned like fire. And the more she acted as though everything was normal, the more certain I became that she had grown comfortable in her lies. 3 nights later, I tested her. I told her I had to work late. Instead, I parked my car 3 blocks away and waited. My chest felt like a fist was squeezing it tighter with every passing minute. I almost wanted to be wrong, to drive back and hate myself for doubting her. But just before midnight, the headlights of a car cut through the street. And there she was, Sarah, slipping out of our house like a thief, her hair tied back, her clothes too polished for a midnight errand. She didn't look like a woman going for groceries or visiting a sick friend. No, she looked like someone chasing something forbidden. I followed. My palms slicked the steering wheel as I trailed her car at a safe distance. She drove with purpose, not hesitation, until she pulled into a hotel parking lot on the edge of town. The kind of place that wasn't luxurious but discreet. I didn't need to see more. My heart was already in shreds, but some twisted instinct pushed me further. I parked across the street, waited until she disappeared inside, then forced myself out of the car. Every step felt like I was walking into a nightmare I didn't want to confirm, yet couldn't stop myself from facing. The lobby smelled faintly of bleach and stale coffee. I stayed in the shadows, pretending to check my phone while watching Sarah at the counter. The man beside her, broad-shouldered, maybe a few years younger than me, wasn't someone I recognized. They didn't touch, not yet, but the familiarity between them was obvious. The way she leaned slightly toward him, the quick, nervous glance she shot around the room as if praying not to be seen. My stomach churned. This was it, the truth laid bare before me. But I didn't storm in, didn't scream, didn't make a scene. Instead, I left. Quietly, like a coward or maybe like a man too broken to fight. I sat in my car until my body ached from the tension. When Sarah came home that night, I pretended to be asleep. She slid into bed beside me, smelling faintly of perfume and betrayal, and I lay there with my back turned, gripping the sheets to keep myself from shaking. The next morning she was cheerful, too cheerful, making pancakes, humming softly, acting like the perfect partner. I almost laughed at the absurdity. How could she move so effortlessly between two worlds? How could she smile at me while carrying the weight of this secret? I realized then, I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with someone who had mastered the art of deception. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted answers, real ones, not whatever story she would spin if I caught her off guard. I needed to understand how deep this went, how long it had been happening, and why. That night when she showered, I checked her phone. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages. Most were mundane, but then I found them, a string of texts from an unsaved number. Short, cautious, arrangements, times, a simple "can't wait to see you." And her reply, "me too." I felt my throat tighten, as though the words were strangling me. Suddenly, the world around me blurred. Our entire relationship, our history, our memories, felt like a lie I'd been stupid enough to believe. I put the phone back before she noticed, but I knew there was no going back. Something inside me had snapped. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was consumed by a burning need for the truth, for confrontation, for closure. Yet even as I planned my next move, another thought crept in, darker and far more unsettling. If Sarah could hide this from me so flawlessly, what else was she capable of? And was I ready to face the full weight of the truth? I never thought silence could scream so loudly. But that night, lying in bed alone while Emily stayed out working late, it was deafening. My mind kept replaying the way she looked at her phone earlier, the way her lips curled into a smile that wasn't meant for me. A small detail, but one that burned a hole in my chest. When she finally stumbled in past midnight, I pretended to be asleep. I couldn't face her, not yet. Instead, I listened. The sound of her quietly tiptoeing, the shuffle of clothes being slipped off, the faint hum of a text notification she didn't silence. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. Something inside me snapped. I couldn't live in uncertainty anymore. The next day, I decided to confront the truth head-on. I followed her after she left for work, keeping a safe distance. My heart pounded with every turn she took, with every red light that gave me time to reconsider. But I didn't stop. Eventually, she pulled into a quiet parking lot behind a cafe, not her office. I watched as she got out of the car, her eyes scanning around nervously, then lighting up when he appeared. A man I'd never seen before. Tall, broad-shouldered, confident. He walked toward her with the kind of ease that comes from familiarity. Then it happened. She ran into his arms, burying her face in his chest as if that was where she belonged. He kissed her like he owned her, like she was his and always had been. I couldn't breathe. My fingers dug into the steering wheel until they went numb. The scene felt surreal, like a cruel movie playing out in front of me while I sat powerless in the audience. 1,000 memories of Emily and me flashed in my head. Our first kiss, the nights we stayed up dreaming about our future, the way she once told me I was her forever. All of it felt like a lie in that single moment. Part of me wanted to storm out, drag her away, demand answers. But another part, the colder, quieter part, knew it wouldn't matter. She had already chosen him. Maybe not openly, not officially, but in her heart she was gone. I sat there, watching until they disappeared into the cafe and realized something brutal. I was the outsider now. For the next few days, I kept my knowledge hidden. I went through the motions at home, pretending everything was fine. She smiled, laughed, touched my hand like nothing had changed. But behind her eyes, I saw it. The distance. The guilt. Every time she looked at me, it felt like she was apologizing without saying the words. The tension built until I couldn't take it anymore. One night, I asked her outright, "Is there someone else?" Her face went pale. She stammered, tried to deny it, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Finally, tears filled her eyes and she whispered, "I didn't mean for this to happen." Those words cut deeper than any confession. She didn't say no. She didn't fight for us. She admitted it without admitting it, and that was worse. I left the house that night. Drove without direction, without destination. Just me, the road, and a storm raging inside my chest. Betrayal is strange. It doesn't just break your heart, it makes you question your entire identity. Who am I if the woman I trusted most could do this to me? What does it say about me, about us, about the years we spent together? When I finally pulled over on the side of some dark country road, I let out a scream so raw it scared me. I wanted to destroy something, to burn everything down. But all I could do was sit in the car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. That night marked the end of something inside me. Not just my trust in Emily, but my belief in the life we had built. And though I didn't know it then, it was also the beginning of a truth darker than betrayal itself. A truth I was about to uncover. I wish I could tell you that after confronting Emily, everything ended neatly. That I walked away, heart intact, and found closure. But real life rarely works that way. Betrayal has a way of digging its claws into your bones, and some wounds never fully heal. After that night, our apartment felt empty even when she was there. Her perfume lingered in the corners, her laughter echoed in places it shouldn't have, and I caught myself looking at my phone for messages that never came. I realized something terrifying. Even knowing the truth didn't stop me from wanting her. I wanted answers. I wanted an apology. I wanted to punish her, and I wanted to forgive her, all at the same time. She tried to explain. She cried, begged, swore it meant nothing, that she was confused, that it was a mistake. Her eyes were glassy, full of regret, or at least what she wanted me to believe was regret. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew better. I had seen the messages, the glances, the way she had chosen him, even if only sometimes. Then came the final twist, the revelation that would leave me shattered and hollow. One night, out of sheer desperation, I met Mark, the man she had been seeing. I wanted to confront him, to unleash all the anger boiling inside me. But instead, he gave me something worse than anger: clarity. He admitted there had been more than one man. He wasn't the only one. Emily had been living a secret life far deeper than I had imagined, weaving lies so carefully I had been blind from the start. She hadn't just cheated once. She had created an entire parallel existence. Every date, every kiss, every "I love you" I believed was real, was contaminated by deceit. I felt like the ground had fallen from under me. Every memory, every plan, every dream we had shared felt like it had been a lie. And yet, even knowing all that, I couldn't hate her completely. Because love, I realized, doesn't always vanish. Not fully. It mutates. It becomes something heavy, something that haunts you in quiet moments. I confronted Emily one last time. She didn't deny it. She didn't defend herself. She simply stared at me, and in that silence I saw the truth. She wasn't capable of the love I needed, nor was she capable of honesty. She was a storm, beautiful, dangerous, and ultimately destructive. I told her to leave. She didn't fight. She packed her things, gave me a glance that seemed to carry all the apologies she never said, and walked out. The apartment echoed with emptiness, and for the first time in months I felt the faintest relief. In the weeks that followed, I began piecing myself together. Slowly, painfully. Each day, I woke up and forced myself to face the world without her lies in the background. I started to reclaim parts of my life I had lost, friends, hobbies, simple joys I had forgotten existed while consumed by obsession and betrayal. But even as I healed, I knew something permanent had changed. Love had left its mark, and so had betrayal. I was no longer naive. I would trust more carefully, love more cautiously, but a part of me would always carry the scars of Emily's choices. Sometimes, late at night, I imagined seeing her across a crowded street, smiling at someone else. And in those moments, a pang of longing hits me, sharp as the day I realized I was deceived. But now I also feel something else: strength. Knowledge that I survived, that I endured, that I can live beyond the shadows she cast over my life. Betrayal doesn't end love. It transforms it into something else entirely. A lesson etched in blood, a reminder of vulnerability, a story that will stay with you forever. And I carry it with me every day.